All right, guys, we're going to talk about the MVP voting this year, and you guys might not like who I have number two and number one.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, guys, so as we get started, I just want to throw out a couple of honorable mentions out there. Starting at number seven, we're going to have Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant, he's doing great right now with 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. But the problem with him right now is none of his games have been too eye-popping. Here and there he's had a couple good games with Draymond and Steph out. Steph's been out for that extended period of time. Draymond has came back at this time, but he's not putting up those crazy eye-popping stats. Partly because he's not averaging as much minutes as some of the other guys in the league, which kind of is taking away some of the stats that he could get and some of the votes that he might get for this MVP race. His team is 27-7 though, which really helps him out a lot. But that's why he's sitting at that number seven mark. Number six, who's actually coming up a few spots, is actually Russell Westbrook. And Russell Westbrook right now, he had that amazing MVP season last year, averaging 31, 10, and 10. But the problem this year is it seems like his team's not gelling, so he might be taking a little bit of a fall for that because he might be seen as the bad guy. He's trying to do too much. He's holding the ball too much, but that's just who he is. That's just who the Thunder are. And I referenced that in my last video. If you guys want to go check that out, why the Thunder are slowly starting to piece into what they should be and what they were going to be at the beginning of the year. But right now he's averaging that 24 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. His points are down. All the other stuff is pretty up to par. His inefficient shooting that he's at this year is still there. His team is 19-15 after a abysmal start, but they're 11-3 in their last 14 games. So he's doing really well, and he's still got one of the highest usage rates in the league, behind a guy who we're going to talk about, a few guys who we're going to talk about later in this video. So that is why he is at that number six part, because he's not doing awful, but he's just not doing as much as some of these other guys that I'm going to name. At this number five, we have Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, obviously, his team was out to a very hot start, and just so you guys know, he is not getting worse. Just because his stats look a little different than last year, don't let that distract you from the fact that obviously his team started very, very well, and he's in a whole different system with Brad Stevens. This system does not rely on him just isoing the ball like Ty Lue, like it looked like in Cleveland with Ty Lue. His team is 27-10 right now. They've struggled around their last 10 games to kind of get those wins, pull out those wins late down the stretch. But Kyrie, amidst all of his quote unquote struggles that you guys want to say in his points per game, in the decline, and all of those other stats, he's still putting up his best field goal percentage, his best 3-point percentage, and his best 2-point percentage of his whole career, which ultimately helps out the Boston Celtics to being, I think, that number 2 seed right now in the East. At number 3, your guys' favorite, Giannis Antetokounmpo. And this guy right now, everybody wants to talk about how Oladipo has been the most improved player and how he's jumped from that kind of third person in that Thunder role, second or third person in that Thunder role, to that top person in on the Indiana Pacers. But he's been doing great, averaging that extra 10 points per game from last season. But Giannis Antetokounmpo is averaging 30 points per game from a 23-point season. He has made this insane jump from being that possible star player to that superstar player within 1.5 seasons. And he's averaging 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. And the only knock on him right now is that he can't develop that jump shot right now, which I don't think he should do. Kind of like Ben Simmons, like I said in one of my other videos, just work on what you're good at right now. Work on what else you need to do over in the off season, but do what you're best at right now and keep trying to improve that. But his team is that 17-14. Some of it could be on his shoulders, but most of it is kind of on these different lineups that Jason Kidd's trying to throw out with all these different players that he's going to get. and all of these different possible acquisitions they can get with with a possible trade for DeAndre Jordan and some of these other players to make their team contend in the Eastern Conference. Now, I know you guys aren't going to be happy with this number 2, but LeBron James is number 2. And I know he's averaging his best field goal percentage in his whole career, his best true shooting percentage in his whole career, his third best points in his career, in his 15-year career, his best three-point percentage, his best two-point percentage, his best free throw percentage. His assists, his 9.2 assists are his best of his career. But the problem right now is the game has changed, and people are looking for those eye-popping stats of who's the best player right now, who's putting up the best stats right now. And at this point, it's not him. He might be almost getting those triple doubles, but it's not him. His team is that 24 and 10 mark. They're third in the Eastern Conference, right behind the Celtics and the Raptors. But as you look back on his 4 MVPs from 2008 to 2013, excluding the D Rose one in 2010, his numbers are basically the same, and if they're actually better now than they were in his MVP years. But it's all about the hot guy, and what the NBA right now really wants these young superstars to kind of break out and get that MVP award. So it's more interesting in the NBA, I guess. So, D Rose back in 2010 looked to be the best up and coming star, amidst his like ACL surgeries, and MCL, whatever he had. But LeBron in that 2010 season still averaged right around that 27, 7, and 7 mark, which is what he was averaging prior years before. So it's not what LeBron's not doing, it's what other people are doing that's actually a little bit better and a little better looking than LeBron. So amidst all of those things, I know LeBron has the highest player efficiency rating. Next is Giannis, but number 3, and who's first in points per game, and who I think probably should have got the Player of the Year or MVP, last year, was James Harden with 32 points averaging this year, 5 rebounds, and 9 assists. He has been crucial for this team. They started out with that 25 and 4 mark. They were at 14-0 with Chris Paul until that ended a little bit ago. But they dropped the last 3 games. But James Harden's put up 51 in a couple of those games. They lost on Christmas Day, but he's still first in points, right around that 32 mark. First in 3-pointers made. I know he's taking around 10 a game, but still, he's still doing an amazing job just making those over to defenders and being able to get past the defender, everything like that. But his highest usage rate in this league is really appalling because, you're up with the greats such as LeBron James, who is carrying his team every single day, and you're putting up more usage rate, even with a superstar on your team like Chris Paul. I know Chris Paul hasn't been there for like half the games, but still, the fact that he's doing all that is very impressive. And he's third in assists at 9 per game. He's really just putting on an exhibition that we haven't really seen in a while. And it's different from last year, because he's not really fighting head to head with Russell Westbrook, but he is fighting with LeBron right now. And unless James Harden's team, I think, drops off, I think he's going to be in that first place, followed by LeBron with yet another second place finish in the MVP voting, which is not going to settle well with those LeBron fans. All right, guys, make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys are subscribing. And if you guys want to hear more about different stuff, just let me know in those comments. And other than that, you guys have a great day. Watch some basketball tonight or in these upcoming games.
Gucci gang. Oh.
That's it right there, T-Neil.
Lil Pump. Yeah. Gucci gang.